Hi everyone, my name is Olivia Estelle, and today I'm talking about psychic versus mediumship. I'm going to really get into the difference. What is the difference between being a psychic and being a medium? What is the difference between a psychic reading and a mediumship reading? The things that we have seen on, television where someone is talking to someone else's deceased loved one, their grandma, they're talking about their beautiful bond together, and then maybe, the end of her life and any messages that she has, to leave with them. That's mediumship. Psychic is actually the process of how the medium received those messages. Those messages were received and portrayed psychically. So the medium tuned in using their psychic abilities to the level of mediumship, to the frequency of the crossed over loved ones, the deceased loved ones. And that is a certain frequency on the bandwidth that they're tuning into psychically. So psychic is a general term for knowing, for higher knowing, for knowing beyond the veil, for knowing, hearing, seeing, and receiving in general, or feeling too, beyond our normal physical five senses. So psychic ability is actually the vehicle for mediumship, but it is possible to just get a psychic reading, or someone who is just a psychic. Well, not really just a psychic. It's a big deal. There's a delineation, I think, in, the psychic world where, mediumship is upheld as like the pinnacle of ability because it can be very evidential and very, evidential being proof. They're giving specifics about grandpa, and it's really hitting home and really validating and such a beautiful healing. But psychic ability is the general ability of receiving on the other side. And so you can be a medium, well, you can be a psychic without being a medium, but you can't be a medium without being psychic, because that's the vehicle of your information. That's how the loved ones are contacting you, is through your psychic abilities if you are a medium. So psychic is getting into our senses beyond the senses, right? It's getting into the feeling beyond the hands and beyond the body. It's a higher, more sensitive, more subtle state. And you can break down the different states of receiving in the clairs. So you have clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, and claircognition, as well as smelling and tasting too. But those four are the big main ones that we use to receive. There is also empath, and that is, I think, something I've covered on another video in the past, but empath is where we not only get a sense, feeling, impression, but we are actually feeling what the other person is feeling, like a mirror, an actual physical representation of what someone else is feeling in our own body, and that's usually an emotional state. Okay? So there's a subtle difference between empath and clairsentient, but it is there. A clairsentient is someone, a psychic feeling, they'll just get kind of a gut, I just don't feel right about this decision, or I feel like really great about, working with this person, or, when we're psychically receiving, kind of getting a sense that yes, I feel yes, that feels like a yes to me. And so that's how clairsentience or psychic feeling is. And then empathy, or being an empath specifically, is akin to physical mediumship, or it's feeling what the other person is feeling, what it's feeling in your body. Like when you step onto a piece of land that had a tragedy happen in the past, you feel in your body the way those people felt. That's physical mediumship. You're feeling what their grandmother was feeling, right? Physical mediumship, it is a form of being an empath. Empaths actually will feel, it's really the same as physical mediumship, but empaths feel it with other living beings. So empaths, you'll feel what your mom is feeling, whereas physical medium will feel what someone's deceased grandmother was feeling. So those are the differences. And now when it comes to opening up those psychic abilities and getting into, the psychic state or even the mediumship realm, it has to do with trust, with self-trust. Now, trust is very closely related, in my experience, to love, right? They're nestled close to each other. They're kind of inhabiting the same space, intermingling. It's hard to have one without the other. You can't have unconditional love without trust. It's possible, but trust is an intrinsic piece to love, to the concept of love, and to the concept of connection with another person. So I would say psychic connectivity requires the same thing. It requires the same state. Okay, so if you're wanting to resensitize and really reach out and connect in a psychic way, then it brings you back to learning to trust yourself again, learning to trust your own imagination again, learning to trust your own impressions, trust what you are thinking and feeling again. So for me, what that required was actually getting to know what it was that I was feeling, because I had no idea at first. It was that bad for me. So I had to get back into, okay, how do I feel about this? I was often just feeling the way other people were feeling, or the way other people wanted me to feel. Whatever it was, I was not inhabiting my authentic self. And so the psychic self, the psychic abilities, is authenticity. It is really inhabiting your authentic self. You know how you feel, you know what your impressions are. If we know how we feel, we know what our impressions are. We know what what we're receiving. We know what's in our imagination, what we're getting clairvoyantly. So often clairvoyance rides along the same tracks as our imagination. At least when we first start opening into psychic ability, it is going to feel like you're making it all up. It is going to feel like that's just my imagination. This is silly, because we've been programmed to think, oh, you're silly. That's just your imagination. That's not real, right? I mean, if we're told that enough times as kids in a society that we live in, it becomes a belief. It becomes internalized. It settles down inside the subconscious layer. It settles down into our spirit and actually cleaves us away from our connection. So that's kind of why, I talk about not loving the educational system and talking about, the society, the way that society kind of disconnects us and kind of dumbs everything down, because it's actually all a desensitizing mechanism that we're all participating in. And it's understanding that, I think, is intrinsic in resensitizing. It's understanding where we got these limiting belief patterns, where we stop ourselves and why. Is it serving you, right? Is keeping yourself away from your imagination and the way that you used to connect as a child, is it serving you? Sometimes it is. Sometimes as a child, we are kind of onslaughted with so much negativity, either in our life or our parents' household or whatever it was, that putting up the shield does protect a child. It does protect you. But eventually we get to a place where we're safe and we have the life force and the energy and the desire necessary to reopen, to let those blinders go, to unwind those limiting beliefs, those lies that we took on as truths because we were too little to know any better, and maybe we had to kind of put on the blinders to get through life. And that's okay, but now we can make a choice differently. We don't have to just keep doing the same thing we have always done. We can decide, I want to open up psychically. I want to learn or study mediumship. We can choose to be mediums. We can choose to develop our intuition, to develop psychically. Now, I do believe in people that are gifted as mediums and gifted psychically. You know, it's kind of like they say, it runs along the same lines as music talent, right? If someone is very musically talented, it's like a prodigy, and someone else has to work really hard. Well, I would urge you, go to a concert and listen to someone and be moved by the music and try to tell the difference. Are they the person that has worked really hard for it, or are they the gifted one? Because even the gifted person has to work really hard to get to that place. So to me, it's the same thing for psychic abilities. It doesn't necessarily matter if you have the desire. It doesn't matter how naturally gifted you think you are. Honestly, if you have the desire, you're probably more gifted than you realize. If you're here watching this, you're drawn here for a reason, and you're probably way more gifted than you realize and way more powerful than you realize in the psychic realm. So I would just follow those little inklings, those desires. Let them become synchronicity. Start working with your guides. Start asking your spirit guides and angels to help you open up your intuition, to help you learn mediumship. Ask for a mediumship guide to come around. Be like, hey, I want to learn mediumship. I want to get better at talking to deceased relatives or loved ones of friends. I want to get better at this. Help me. And ask for help and validation and just the next step on your path. Okay? So that is the 101 difference between psychic and mediumship. And it is always my hope that you decide to learn to develop your abilities wherever you are on the spectrum. So my hope is to be putting out some intuition development courses and classes. Please comment and let me know if that is something that interests you. It would be online, and hopefully we can connect further in the realm of psychic and mediumship abilities. Thanks so much, and I will see you in the next one.